Are you looking to build an exceptional team? Our hiring toolkit bundle at luannigara.com/store is your comprehensive source for success. Craft compelling job descriptions, know the right interview questions to ask, and implement a thorough evaluation process so you get the right person. These were developed in collaboration with my cousin Eileen Hahn and based on her 40 years of experience in building exceptional teams, plus my insights from 1,000 plus interviews. Our toolkits are tested and proven. Whether you're scaling from 1 to 3 or from 3 to 10 or from 10 to 20, the Hiring Toolkit Bundle provides the guidance that you can use to plan your hiring strategy effectively. Go to luannigara.com/store and invest in your success by investing in the success of your team. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. If you've been listening for a while, you've heard me say it before. Interior design is a luxury service. Whether you're doing a single room refresh or managing a full-scale renovation, your work is high-end and high impact. And when you understand that, everything shifts. Your pricing, your sales conversations, your client expectations. You show up differently, more confidently, more clearly. But luxury isn't just about beautiful rooms and custom finishes. At the heart of a luxury experience is the ability to hear what your client actually wants, even when they might not know how to say it. Today's guest, Melanie Rosenburg, is the founder of MASH Habitat Interiors based in Texas. Melanie has built a process-driven firm focused on crafting authentic spaces that reflect her clients' unique lifestyles, values, and aspirations. She's a master at uncovering the unspoken desires that lead to meaningful design. And she's equally savvy when it comes to budget conversations, systems, and managing expectations. In our conversation, Melanie shares how she navigates discovery with intentionality, how she builds trust from the very first meeting, and why clarity and collaboration around budget come before she even begins to design. And a heads up, this episode is sponsored by our friends at Design Trade Service. If you are tired of managing endless vendor accounts, tracking orders across dozens of brands, and chasing updates on your own, DTS is your solution. They give you access to hundreds of designer-preferred brands, consolidate your orders, and handle the tracking and follow-up. Go to designtradeservice.com/Luann to open your free account today. Now, let's talk to Melanie about how she creates clarity, connection, and a luxury experience that's personal, profitable, and powerful. Hey, Melanie, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hello, Luann. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have this interview too. Of course, we've known each other for several years, met each other through IDS, I believe, right?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Love IDS as an organization, don't you?
I do. I've been involved with them for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yes.
It's a great culture at IDS. That's what I find. It's like, the education and all of that is top notch. Mm-hmm. But for me, what my experience with IDS is, whether I'm at a chapter meeting or I'm at the national conference or at a High Point or Vegas market sponsored event, there is such a sense of true community at IDS. That's very rare, don't you think?
I think so. I felt it pretty much from the get-go, and I just haven't stopped attending. There really is the mantra of, community and collaboration over competition, and we
Yeah.
are there to lift everybody up and
Yeah.
work with each other.
Yeah. The thing about it is you can say it, but then you can also do it. And I love when businesses, organizations, whatever it is, people, individuals, they say what they do and they actually do it, as
Yes.
opposed to, well, that's a little like not so much doing what you're saying you're going to do over there. And so, and I have been a part of dozens of IDS events over the last 9 years. And I've never not experienced that, whether you're just visiting Maddie and Jenny
Yes.
in the office at High Point or wherever any of those other types of events are. It's always very clear that it is a very close-knit, supportive community.
We try to be very welcoming. We
Yeah.
want everybody to be engaged and getting to know each other.
Yeah, yeah. I've sent dozens of designers that I meet, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
go to IDS. Like, what are you telling me?
Yes, and get involved. That's the
Yes.
best way to do it. Get involved.
Yeah, yeah. And I will just say, because usually I get an email from ASID at this point and saying, why don't you talk about us?
Yeah.
My experience with ASID is New Jersey ASID, which achieves the same thing, the New Jersey ASID. New York, I've experienced several times, but it's a bigger chapter, and I've gone in, I've spoken. That day has been great. It's really just not as much contact for me. I don't know what it is, but various chapters across the country for IDS have invited me, and of course at the national conference multiple times. So yes, ASID, love you too, absolutely. But I'm just saying I have a lot more experience with IDS.
Yeah,
So
we're a lot of fun.
yeah, it's not a either or, it's just anyway. So here's the thing, along that frame of mind with, being a person, a business, an organization that lives in your values, one of the things that you said on your intake form that I want to start the conversation with is, and I'm going to read it. He said, I want to encourage designers to build businesses that are both profitable and personal, grounded in their own strengths and values. And of course, you continued, but I want you to share with us, what does that mean for you and your company, Melanie? Because it's the same analogy that we're talking about IDS, saying what you're going to do and then doing it, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it really goes back to when I started my business and coming up with a name. I created the name MASH, and I thought this name will be with me forever, like my kids' names will be with them forever. Okay, maybe I'll start there. Nothing means more to me than my family. So MASH came from Max, Ava, Stella, Hannah. And
I always wondered about that.
And it just, it meant so many. I was like, wow, this can really morph into different things. It can be, memorable, authentic, stylish, harmonious design for your habitat. I mashed together different styles whenever I'm creating a design. I mash together different personalities when I'm working with clients, husband and wife teams. So it was just a whole thing. And when I'm creating a design, and this is in answer to the question of building the business that's profitable and personal, it's really just putting something that is authentic. I love using pieces that are authentic. I love creating a feeling in a home that feels authentic to the client. And so I just ground everything from that. And then we also need to make a profit, right? And we are a business. So creating systems that work in a way where I can keep the focus on creating those authentic homes and designs, but the systems in place are what make it profitable.
Right. So two different things to pick apart, which is the authenticity of the designs to the consumer that you're working with and the process. So let's talk about the first one first. Okay. So I can imagine if I am a lesser experienced interior designer, I probably are thinking, well, every house I do is designed authentically for that person? Like, I feel like, is there a nuance there, Melanie? Because I know that you're a seasoned designer. You're not saying this just like, I'm just throwing it out. It's probably the kind of thing she wants to hear on the intake form. Maybe it'll impress her, right? Like, I feel like, so dig deeper and explain, what is the difference in your mind of showing up in that way?
Yeah, I felt like when I first started, there were things that I was supposed to do, questions I was supposed to ask my clients. And I would ask these questions, and I just felt like I was getting sort of a surface level answer from them, and it wasn't really helping me achieve that meaningful design that I was wanting in the end. So I started looking at these questions that I was supposed to ask, and then I started thinking, okay, if I come at this from a client perspective, how would I want to be presented with pricing? How would I want to be presented with a design? What questions would I want to be asked by my designer so that I know that they're really hearing me? And so that's what I started looking at. And one thing that I changed is I stopped asking, believe it or not, I stopped asking my clients what their budget was.
Thank
And I
you.
stopped asking my clients what their style is.
Right.
Because they tend to tell me words that either they had heard were buzzwords and or what they thought that it should be, and so it just never seemed to really match up. So I replaced it with things like, what price point are you comfortable at for a sofa? Even if I wasn't searching for a sofa, I just want to know in their mind, where are they starting? And then questions for their style, I always ask them, how do you want the specific space or home to feel when you walk in? Do you want it to feel bright and airy? Do you want it to feel moody? Do you want it to feel minimal and organized? Tell me about how how do you want it to feel? And once I started doing that, my clients were able to really tell me how they were living and when they came home, what they wanted it to feel like when they walked in their bedroom or a powder bathroom. They want their powder bath to feel fun and lively, but they want their bedroom to feel serene and calm. So we started working with some of these different descriptive words that way.
So I love this idea. I love this because I think that as a human, when we ask specific directed questions, like what style you like, for example, as you used, we do start to process it like a process. We start to, oh, that's a specific question. I have this specific answer. Whereas when you say, what do you want your home to feel like when you come into it, or want this room to feel like? Now I feel like it's like our brain just relaxes and says, well, I don't know. What do I want? And now here come the descriptors, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. And so again, for a less seasoned designer, when I would say, knowing sales the way I know sales is, I think one of the first mistakes that we could make is asking that question, but not really sitting and listening to the answer, right? Because somebody, if you ask them an open-ended question like, how do you want to feel? That could be a 3-minute answer. And we got to find in that answer the thing that makes sense that we can latch on and then say, oh, this is what I heard you to say, right, Mel?
Absolutely. And asking them how they're using the space too, is this where your family is hanging out? That will start to pair up with the words that they're using to describe it. So you're using the function and the feel all together to create, an idea. And so we're taking lots of notes based on what they're saying, and then we interpret those notes into our design plan from there.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there has to have been times when, like, there's contrast, right? Where they're saying we want this XYZ, but then they're describing ABC. Or do you find that most people do get there? In other words, if they're saying, oh, I'm trying to describe, like, I want calm and serene in my bedroom, but then they're like showing you, tropical floral wall covering, and they're like, I love this. Just like, well, not so sure I would label that calm and serene. Like, do you have to then say, maybe we would use that as a pillow as opposed to wall covering if you want to achieve calm and serene? Like, how do you navigate that type of thing?
Yeah. So that's so funny. Yes, that could absolutely happen. So what I do in my process is, before I start my design, so I have the same process and I work through it with every client, no matter the scale of the project. And it's just where we start kind of, but they go through the whole process. So part of what we do is we have a pre-design meeting. That's what I call it. And they come into my studio, and this is where I ask them all of these questions about how they want it to feel, because we really haven't talked a whole lot about the specific design at this point. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about numbers first. So I always start with the numbers. And I need to kind of drill down what their budget is. So we always start with that. And I help them create that. And
Okay.
then we go into the pre design meeting. And the pre design is when I talk about all these feeling words and have a little conversation with how they live. But then I also ask them to bring any inspiration images,
Mm.
whether it's, Pinterest, or it's a furniture piece, or it's a, magazine clip out, which yes, we still get people bringing in magazine clip outs. And we talk about what it is that they like about the picture that they brought in, because it might not be the whole room. It might be a piece or two pieces, or maybe it is just the feeling, but they really don't care for the furniture or the layout, or, so we just talk about it and
Mm.
having these conversations. That's basically how I know what I'm doing next, is
Yeah.
through this conversation. And maybe I've just become a really good listener over time, but it is looking at the visual that they are bringing and showing me. We talk that through, what they like about it, and use their feeling words of how they're going to functionally use it and how they want it to feel in that space. And so I take
Mm.
all those pieces and put them together.
Now, was there a time in your journey as an interior designer where you either A, didn't do this, B, did it but kind of skimmed through it, or C, did it but didn't pay attention to collating the actual information you're getting? Like, can you remember a time when you thought you were doing right? I think you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago, and actually, but describe that before and after to me. How like what were the results like before doing a finite discovery process like this versus the way you lean into it now? And also I'm looking for, the results, how the results are different when you take intentional time to do something that I think younger in our business career might be like, let me just get to the good stuff, let's start picking furniture, right?
Yeah, yes. I think that what I was missing before was a very specific and pointed discussion about what it is they wanted it to feel like. And I did come at it through more of a, tell me about your style. Or I had a set of pictures and I said, which one of these pictures do you most relate to? And I think, and there's not anything necessarily wrong with that. I just wasn't getting what I needed from that. Because I know a lot of people will do that. They'll show them the images and they get what they need, and they can move on. But for me, I needed to know a little bit more for it to feel. Again, I very much grounded into this authentic. I want it to feel like their space, not
Mm.
mine. I want it to feel like them. Just really pulled together, purposeful.
Yeah.
And so when I was providing the images, they were limited in what they were wanting to
They're
express.
picking the
Yeah,
best of. It's
they're
not
picking the best
necessarily the
of.
thing that they would like, right?
Absolutely. And so when I stopped doing that and I said, you bring an image, it could be one. You can show me your Pinterest board. We'll go through it. And I set aside about 2 hours for this pre-design meeting. We don't always use that much time. Every now and then, if we're doing a whole home, we'll go over, but it's so helpful and important for me with my clients that's how I save time in the design process, is if
Yeah.
I spend this time getting to know them, how they live, what they like to do, favorite colors, things that they don't like, materials that maybe they're not aware of that they don't like until I start
Yes.
talking about it. There's just so much that comes out of it, and I love for both parties to be there. So
Mm.
it's really great to hear from everybody.
Mm. I'm taking time to really dig into this with you, and I appreciate you're doing it with me because I do think that until you have experienced the success, the difference, you can think that you're asking good questions and you can think that you're listening, but you really don't even know that you haven't hit it. And you are going on to design a room and it's coming out beautiful and the clients are happy. But what I'm hearing from you is there is a much more significant, meaningful level of satisfaction, both for you and the consumer, in getting to that completed product because of the way you're approaching it.
Yes, I think they feel it. I know
Mhm.
I feel it. My team feels it. It's just that initial connection. And I think that it goes a long way in establishing trust. We had a meeting yesterday here, and it was the husband and wife, and we've met with them several times. And I'm showing her a certain chair, and her first thing was like, "Oh, I wouldn't normally do that." And then I went on to explain why and what's surrounding it, and here's the reason that I chose this. And by the end of it, she said, "Yep, I really like those chairs." And so it was just understanding and framing that thinking, that comes from that trust of having these conversations previously.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think
Yeah.
it's something that if you're not currently doing it for yourself and your business, you know, stop, rewind, listen to it again, kind of figure out how you can alter your approach for this
Mhm.
because you are going to get better results,
Mhm.
right? And, I think about like, me, I always got to figure out an analogy so you get it from a different point of view. But I think about like if you were going into like even something like Nordstrom's, how Nordstrom's has a personal shopper,
Mhm.
right? Like the difference is somebody saying, "Hey, what kind of event are you shopping for?" "Oh,
Mhm.
well, I'm going on a vacation and I need, daytime of things and casual but dressier nighttime things." And then like, okay, and coming back with caftans and coming back with sarongs and then like I'm like looking going, "I'm not going to wear that." Like where are
Right.
the shorts and the
Right.
tees and you know what I mean? Like it's like not asking me, how do I want to feel when I
Mhm.
go out to, a sightseeing trip? How do I want to feel when I go out at night? It's like me, I'm very tomboyish. I'm like, I want to be comfortable, priority one. I want to look cute. I do. Who doesn't want to look cute? Right. But not at the expense of feeling like I'm dressed like somebody else. You know what I mean? And so I can
Absolutely.
see that, how that could happen.
Mhm.
And you can be brought a room full of clothing, and they could all objectively look good on you. But that's when you get home with the stuff and you're just like, I'm never going to wear this.
I love that analogy so much because it's so true. I can see somebody wearing a really cute outfit, and this is honestly the most color that I would normally wear. I'm very neutral normally. And, when I see these really colorful, bright outfits on people, I'm like, oh, that looks so cute. I don't feel comfortable in that.
I
I
know.
would I wouldn't project that I feel comfortable in that.
Right.
I have to feel comfortable in whatever it is that I'm wearing for it to
Yeah.
feel like me. I do want it to feel pulled together and I want it to look cute on me. But, I would need somebody that knew what they were doing with the clothing and then hear
Yes.
what I have to say about it to be able to help me put that together.
Yes, and
Yeah.
really, and I
Yeah.
love the way you dig in
Yeah.
because somebody telling you their style and somebody just saying, "Hey, what's your favorite of these four?" That's not allowing that my favorite actually isn't there, but I don't know it either. I'm a
Right.
consumer. I don't know interior design, and I'm like, "All right, that's the best of the four." And here's the other thing: when we're excited as a consumer, we're excited. We're making an investment in design and we're going to have this beautiful room or home and we're done. So we also can get wrapped up in, I love that room. That's so pretty. And then it's like, actually, but I don't want to live in it.
Mm-mm. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it when they come in and I've put the design together and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I love it." You get people with tears in their eyes, and you're
Oh,
like, "You took everything that I wanted, but you exceeded it." And I'm just like,
yes.
"That's my goal every time. I want to hear you, but I want to exceed what your
What you
expectations
even
were for
couldn't even
you would do."
imagine.
Yes,
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 yes. I love it. I love it. Okay, now let's go to that process one. I got to
yes.
have So,
Important.
yes. So tell me about some of the processes that you use that are helpful in your business. For example, let's just,
Hmm.
elephant in the room. This is a sponsored show by
Hmm.
DTS.
Yes.
So, how is it that you use the design trade service platform
Hmm.
in your business? And why is that one of your go to tools for your business, Mel?
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, I do start with the numbers always. So, I always have a very specific budget that the client and I have set together. And whether it is line itemed by the piece or it's a whole room, and that's for me to be able to work within. Bottom line, I have my total, and the
Okay.
line items just help me to create that total. So from there, that's when I would start my sourcing, and I would go to DTS to I love going to their platform because I can pull everything up. I know what my numbers are, and now I'm starting to create. And so I can see all of these different options at a glance of what I might want to work from. I can filter it by different things, dimensions, pricing, which is super helpful. And then it can filter that on down. And from there, they have beautiful pictures on there. So the way that I work in my process is I'll clip that picture, I'll stick that on my design board to show that to the client later. So I can kind of gather all of these things. You can also put together little client folders for your projects, so you can save things, if you will, that way. And it has all of the information there. And then it shows who the vendor is. So if I do need a sample, I can get a sample of the fabric, and then they will handle. So once I put all the designs together, and I can go right back in there, reach out to my rep, or place the order right there on their website, and they've got it from there.
Yeah.
So that's really nice.
Yeah. Now
Various vendors, so it's like I don't have to keep up with an order individually. It's all through the one platform.
and that's the thing. You mentioned a couple of times your team. So how many employees do you have, Mel?
I have two that are
Okay.
here in studio.
And what are their roles on your company?
Yeah, so Kristen is like my go-to right-hand man. She assists with all things and knows all the ins and outs. She does a lot of the order placing, and takes that off my plate, thankfully. And so she follows up with the details. So she loves using them because they're very responsive. She can email if she has a question. We can get status updates. And then I have another person, Kayla, who's here, and she's here part-time. And she is starting to assist with orders too, to now take that off Kristen's plate.
Okay.
Which is really great.
Yes.
And because we have this process in order, and working through DTS is so easy, she can just pick right up. There's not a big learning curve there. It's really just getting into an email or logging onto the website, and then that's it. So she was able to pick that up and take that part over real easy.
Yeah, my experience so far with all the designers I've talked to, and of course the team at DTS, and what I think is one of the big pluses is what you just described. It's like, it's all there. So if you place, 15 items or 30 items or 2 items for a particular client, it's there in that folder, and there aren't, Kayla or Kristen, they don't have to do 15 emails to find out the 15 items across the 15 vendors. And I just think about that as such a time saver, right?
It is. I mean, it's really, if we need to know the status, and they'll send status updates, but if we want to know even more what the status is, then we just send them an email, and they will get right back. And they're super responsive, and just get right back and let us know where it is.
And I know as a seasoned designer, you probably have your own accounts with some or many of the brands that you shop under DTS.
Yes.
So you find the pricing is good? I mean, because, right? Because you wouldn't come here and do it if it was costing you more money than if you went direct.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I love that. I think that's good. And then the thing about it is that for clarity, you are not inviting, like, first of all, DTS is trade only, right? But you are not even opening the DTS platform with your client. This is not like we're going shopping together, right? It's no different than if you went to High Point and you picked a sofa. Your client isn't with you. You're going to get an image of it. You're going to get a spec sheet of it, and you're going to put it on your design board. So you're using DTS in the same way. You're just not like traipsing all the way to North Carolina.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I rarely will take clients with me. I will in special circumstances, but they tend to get a little overwhelmed. If I put them in front of a website and showed them options, I think they would start to, I would lose them.
Right,
Like, I
right.
need
What
to
else is there
bring
to
them back.
see?
Yes, yes. Oh, I
Do
didn't know
page
that was that.
42.
Yes, no, no, no. We don't want that. And so, I already know what sizes we need and I know what price point we need to be at. And I know the fabrics that we need to look out for. And, you know, and what the style is that we're going for.
Yeah.
Yes, that one's pretty, but that one's
Yes.
not going to work in your home. So, no, I don't open it up for them. So I love that it does have, it has different pricing on there, and I can see kind of what my margins are, which is always really great. And like I said, I'll clip the pictures and put those into the design board for my clients to view there
Yeah.
separately.
Yeah. It's like the frame of the point of view for me is, it's so funny because we just had our Exciting Windows conference a couple of weeks ago. And I was doing a conversation, I was doing a presentation on luxury mindset. And at one point, I was describing how for the 40 years that I was primarily, selling custom window treatments through our showroom, that I've probably had 3 or 4 showroom appointments prior to being at their house. And that was always under duress. And like, I could see the audience kind of looking at me like, what do you mean? Like, a lot of people believe that the showroom gives them credibility. And a lot of people believe they need a showroom in order to sell custom window treatments so that people believe that they're real. I'm not discounting those things, but I never used the showroom as the first appointment, because if you come into my showroom as a first appointment and I've got 24 window treatments on display and 2,000 fabric books, I'm like, I don't need to spend an hour, 2 hours talking about stuff that I don't know yet is in your budget, will fit your window, will actually achieve the function you want. And what happens is you run around in circles. And I have literally said to people, they're like, oh, what is this here? And I'm like, right. I said, and this is if they're in the showroom after I've been to their house and now maybe they want to come see something, which is also very rare, but it still happened. And now they walk in and they see something else. Oh, I love that. Right. It won't fit in your window.
Right.
What do you mean? Because you don't have an inside mount. And that is a 4-inch headrail, my friend. And I've had the situation where they're just like, no, but I really like it. And I'm like, look, it's not going to work. It might look beautiful. It might be the thing, but I actually physically cannot do it. And it's like, and it's just a complete distraction. And so I could see the same thing. The point of a platform like DTS is you do your work. No different than 30 years ago when you had to go in and out of a showroom and find the things. You don't drag everybody along with you, right?
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We don't need the attention span, because we all know that feeling when we know the perfect thing we're looking for. We know what we're looking for. We know the kind of style, whatever it is, whether it's a fabric, whether it's a lamp, whether it's a rug. And when you find it, you find it. But the consumer is like, but what else is out there?
No.
There's another page. Oh, there's
Yes.
42 pages of results. We should look at them all. No, we shouldn't, man.
We should not. They will not all work. You didn't want to spend that much. Don't look at those over there. You want this is your refined, edited version that was carefully chosen by your hired designer. So
which
you don't
is
need to
why
worry
you
about
hired me,
this.
right? Yes, like
Yes.
that's what I used to say. I'm like, you came to a custom window treatment showroom so that I would do all this work for you and present the solution.
Yes, we are the experts. That's what they want us to help them with.
Exactly. I love that. Now, talk to me a little bit about like the delivery process and all of that. Like, it seems like pre-COVID, almost every conversation touched on the reveal install. Nobody talks about it anymore. And I keep meaning to ask you guys, is anybody doing the reveal install anymore? Or did COVID just blow that up and we don't do it? So as a rule, Melanie, is the industry, do you go back to, or is there, because I really keep thinking, I got to ask you guys this, but is that a thing, or is that like, no, COVID ruined it, nothing ever comes in at the same time, and we don't make people wait 2 years for something to come in anymore?
Right. Well, our process is we collect everything.
You
So
do.
we will collect and store most everything. If we have a random outlier, then we'll go ahead and schedule, and then we do schedule a delivery, and that's usually we'll have like our delivery day, and then we will schedule a install slash style out
Right.
closely thereafter. So everything is assembled, everything is in place, rugs are placed, rug pads are there, and now we're coming back and the stage is set now for us to do
Okay.
this. So
Now
we
you do the pretty.
usually, yes, and we usually ask clients, okay, this is when you need to
Go
go, so that,
away.
yes, and let us spend a few hours here. We'll spend like all day on some projects, and then they come home and then we'll walk them through, and there's some things there that they haven't seen. I don't always show them some of their smaller styling decor items. I try to be real purposeful and thoughtful and with what I'm buying for their specific little styling items for bookshelves and things like that. And those are all returnable. So they've approved and paid for all of the bigger items. And then we'll have some smaller surprises. And if they don't care for them, they can return them. But most of the
Okay.
time they see it in place and they're like, this is great.
Yeah. And you've got
Yeah.
them there so that you
Mhm.
can do photographs and the room
Yes.
looks complete,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So from a practical standpoint, whether you order at DTS or you order it direct, it's going to your receiver.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's no problem with that. That's not a complication. It's not something that can't happen. And then the other thing that I learned when I was talking to a designer about DTS one time was that, like you mentioned, that one item that or two items that aren't going to make the reveal install. And, the fact that you can now go to DTS and you can get white glove delivery on one item, right?
I was just going to say that, like, we just had a bed delivered yesterday through DTS, and it was delivered straight to our project because we were finished with most everything else. All of the other deliveries we had already handled. We were waiting on this bed now, and it came perfectly right after the movers got there. And so they're bringing in some of the smaller items. The bed was delivered, white glove delivery. So they unboxed it, assembled it, and put it in place. And so now it's
And the advantage of
seamless.
that is, so I understand, the logistics on it. The advantage is is it both just easier and streamlined as well as less expensive than sending it to a receiver for one item? Is the advantage both, or is it just it's just more seamless? What's the positive?
It really depends on what all we are doing because we'll work with receivers, but then we also have a storage
Oh, your
facility. So,
own.
yeah, so we
Gotcha.
send a lot there that we are managing and taking care of. If there is something like from DTS where I can send it straight there and it can skip all the middlemen and we're ready for it.
Yes.
So, we thought we were going to have to ship it to storage, but we didn't. And we were able to ship direct to the client. So,
Yeah.
great.
And the thing is, when I think back to my days at WindowWorks, and Kravit first was coming out with their quick ship furniture and different things that were actually definitely beneficial for interior designers. But for somebody like myself, as a window treatment professional, you can count on two hands the number of times I've sold furniture over the years, right?
Right.
It's really it's a slam dunk. You want this thing and I can get it with Kravit because I have an account and I'm not going in, minimums and all of that stuff. But even with Kravit, it's no, sweetie, it has to be delivered to a loading dock. We're
Right.
not going to do from us to your client. And first time that happened, of course, knowing nothing about the industry, I was like, wait, what?
Yes, being able to drop ship is
Yeah.
such a positive.
Yeah.
Especially for clients now who are asking questions about that, and if we have a lot of receiving fees and storage fees, that does cut into their budget sometimes.
Mhm.
And so if we can save them a little bit of that, they're
Yeah.
usually very grateful
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they were able to just receive it.
And my thing is, look, listen, all day long, do the project at the best price that you can do and still make money. But for me, that's secondary. First is the experience, right?
Yes.
You're able to just say, okay, we're done everything, bring the bed. Not like you
Yes.
said, put the bed here and then get the
Yes.
bed picked up and then beat a bot. It's just just get the darn bed in the house.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly
And
right.
do it nicely, right? It still has
Yes.
to be that luxury experience. It can't
Yes.
be dropping it at the street because
No.
we don't do inside delivery.
No, we don't want that. We want to avoid that at all costs. No,
Right?
it's a very seamless, fantastic experience. And the client came home and she was thrilled.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, before I let you go, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about, you mentioned twice, and I know my iTunes reviews, it's not even called iTunes anymore. My Apple reviews say, she asked the question in my head.
Yes.
And twice you said, I make sure that the budget and the money
Oh,
is established before we start talking design.
yes.
So walk us through how you do that, Melanie.
Yes. So that is actually something that I kind of offer at my in-home consult.
Oh, okay.
So I do charge for an in-home consult. It's a fairly, I think, very reasonable fee for me to come out. But I come out, I spend about an hour in their home, and we basically take a list of everything. They tell us all of the things that they're wanting us to do, and we take those notes and we put them into a budget format. So it's all line itemed out. And from there, I create a price point for everything. And then I review that with the clients. So we form it together. I start it, and then now it's an editable kind of document, and we work through it together. They see my fees, they see the purchases, all the costs for those, and we create a total. And once they approve that, then we're ready to go into the next step. That's when they'll usually pay my retainer.
Okay, so let me break it down. So I just got a vision in my mind of how I think you're doing this, but we got to confirm if I'm
Okay.
off track or on track. So in that consult, let's say we're talking about, a primary bedroom.
Okay.
You've done all your question, you're doing your questioning process. Well, and the deeper questioning, how do you want it to feel, is all happening at the next step.
That's right.
Okay, so at this step, we're just like, okay, like we want to replace the rug, we want to replace the drapes, we want to replace all the furniture, some of the furniture, grandma's armoire has to stay, whatever it is. I need paint, I need lighting, I need all the things. So you are getting the scope of what it is. And then what I thought I visualized that what you were doing after that is now you've made a list: carpet, lighting, draperies, bedding, furniture, blah, blah, blah. And now you're walking them through. My guess for carpet for this room is going to be 3,000 to 5,000. Just let's put that number there as a placeholder.
Yes.
My guess for furniture is going to be 15 to 20. Let's just put it as a placeholder. My
Yes.
guess for lighting is going to be 1 to 3. Put it as a placeholder. And you're just estimating on your experience a range of what each should cost. And at the bottom, you're saying, so this room is going to be about $70,000 to $90,000 in furniture. My design fee is XYZ on a room at this size. And this is where we're at. Don't forget, we're going to add 18% shipping and fees and all the other crap. And, just like when you plan a wedding, right? It's
Yes.
like $175 a plate, but by the time you pay all the taxes, it's actually
Right.
$225
Yes.
a plate. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
So you're doing all that. And then you're looking at them and you're just saying, so budget for this room is 90 to 120. Are we in the right frame? Is that what you're doing?
It's even broken down further than that. So I
Okay.
basically will list out by room what they want us to work on. So if we're in the primary bedroom and they say bed, rug, draperies, lighting, a couple of lamps, nightstands, whatever, each of those things show up on the budget. It's like this budget and scope of work. And so I'll list everything out in each one of those items. I'll give a price point, because what I know about me, back at the beginning when I said, how would I want to approach pricing? How would I want a designer to approach pricing with me? Is I need to know, okay, you came up with $90,000, but how? Where did that go?
Yes.
Well, I think you can get there by showing them the line item breakdowns. Well, we have a couple of lamps here, $450 each. We have a couple of nightstands here, $1,200 each. Da 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 da. We go through it all, and then if they say, "Oh, well, can you do? I don't know how I feel about spending $450 on a lamp. It's really not that important to me. I mean, do you think you can get it for $250?
Yeah.
Let's see." So then we put it in, I'll change the price for the scope and the budget. And then we'll get down to the bottom and they'll say, yes, this is about where I wanted to be. This looks good. This is, I see how it all adds up. They'll approve that. My retainer is in there. And then so they can see how much they need to pay me. I invoice them for that full retainer. And then we schedule our measure of their home and their pre-design meeting.
Okay. So now the only thing from a practical standpoint that I want to understand is, if you're putting See, when I made the assumption of how you do it, I made it to how I do window treatment sales and how we teach at Luann University our 7-step selling process, which we teach for designers and window treatment people. And what we're doing is we are estimating a ballpark, because if this is the first conversation about money, I don't know if you want to spend 2,000 or 10,000 on a rug. And I don't like, for design, I know we don't really care if we want 2,000 or 10,000 for a rug, because you want to come to a dollar amount for the room, and then you can play high low as a designer to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in order to come to the actual budget, so my thing is I would think if I did a finite number for everyone, just changing a lamp isn't going to change that number significantly. And if I see that you think that this is it's $15,000 for rug, if I'm not prepared, I feel like if I'm not educated, if I've not worked with a designer before, I might completely push back. I know you can come back from that. I'm not saying you can't come back from it, but I'm also thinking about the less seasoned designer that's not as much on her feet. So I feel like if I came up with, for nightstands, it's 800 to 1,200. For rug, it's 2,000 to 5,000. And then I can at the bottom say, here's one budget that comes up to 90, and here's another budget that comes to 120. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like somebody can look at me and say, this all looks good. Or, geez, 120 is not in our price range. And it's like, well, look, you see that we also came up to 90. We can do 90. Mm-hmm. But what I really want, and the mechanism that this is supposed to reveal, is we're standing there and somebody goes, oh, I thought I could do this room for 20. And you're just like, get your butt out of your head, out of your butt, right? Like, no, that is IKEA. Goodbye. See you, right? Like, of course, that's inside voice. Outside voice is, that's interesting. So do we want to keep all of grandma's furniture and we'll just do, wall covering and drapery? Like, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly where that conversation leads, because they don't have to stick with my number.
Right.
And they do feel like they have some, so I talk about all of that through,
right. Okay. So you are
through
doing
the
all
budget creation. So if we talk about the sofa and they're like, gosh, I just don't know. I see that you have 4,000 here for this little sofa, will that meet our, because I tell them all the time, I don't want to over budget, and I also don't want to under budget, because I won't be able to meet your expectations, right? So I tell them, once we have gone through this and you can see how it's all adding up, so they can see that $90,000 number, and then they can remove things, they can adjust some of the pricing, maybe some of the scope is put on phase 2.
Right.
There's so many options, but I basically upload that into, yes, I do use my Doma. So I upload that into my Doma, into the files, and or actually I put that in the contract section, and they can download it and they can talk amongst themselves. Now they have a concrete guide, at least, for how some of these furnishings are adding up. And I have them come back. So then we're going to do a revision discussion. And this is where they will come back and they'll say, okay, after you left, we thought of all of these other things that we want to add in, and we decided we're going to wait on this because we want to do this. And so we change it. And this is just having this budget in conjunction with the in-home consult guarantees a follow-up call, right? So they've had me out. Now they're getting a budget that I'm going to upload, and they don't see it until we get on a Zoom to discuss it. So now I have a face-to-face discussion with them, via Zoom, where we're reviewing this together. So now this is my second time with them after me being in their home. And it just guarantees that follow-up. And so now we're going through it. Now I'm going to upload it, and they can decide if they want to move forward into another revision meeting, then that's even better. And then if they don't want to, and I don't hear back from them, then that's fine too.
You didn't really go start sourcing things.
Yes, it wasn't what they needed. So, but I will say most of them, a very high percentage, follow up with that Zoom call, and then usually a secondary. So the turnover rate of getting them to sign once we've gone to the in-home consult is pretty high.
Okay. So that's a good clarification. So you're not doing the budget in the home on the first
No,
consult. You're
no.
gathering the information
Yes.
and
Yes.
you're going to then provide them. Because I was about to say, what mechanism are you using to coming up with all that math on the fly?
No.
Not the estimate on what a lamp costs or a rug costs. I know if you don't know that as an interior designer, I mean, that's where you got to start, right? That's like
Right.
batting hat practice for, a ball player. Like go do your practice on your own time.
Absolutely.
But you're not presenting them with that. I love that because you see, I think it's different than window treatments. Like window treatments are a much shorter sale. Crying out loud with motorization, I can't say that the budgets are a lot different anymore, but it's either you're doing it or not, right? Like you're like, what are you doing? Are you going to spend 20,000 in this room or not? Are you going to spend 5,000 in this room or not? Because I just need to know, are we doing wood blinds? Are we doing
Right.
motorized draperies and, Roman
Right.
shades, right?
Right.
But for you guys, it's much more nuanced. And I can understand there is a lot of leeway in coming up with a budget that's between 90 and 120, say, and having somebody say, you know what, now that we're looking at it with you, we're comfortable with 70, right? And 70 you can do. You just, as you said, you're going to take, okay, so what are we taking away?
Yes.
That's fine. And
Yep.
70 is still worthwhile showing up for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're,
They're going to go with the rest eventually.
Yes, and it's part of that trust building.
Yes.
They're part of this process. I'm not assigning them a number. And so that's, for me, just how my brain thinks, having somebody come in and assign me a number, but working through it seems more to me, it's like forming the team.
Yes.
We're starting out, we're going to establish this relationship. We're in this together. Let's figure out how can we get this done the best we possibly can at the budget level that you need it to be done at.
And what I love, Melanie, and I don't want to blow over it, is that the budget is presented in a Zoom meeting. It is not an email that says your budget is $100,000. Do you want to go ahead or not? Like, no, you need to see their face. You need to see their reaction. You need to see one partner look at the other partner, right? Like Nagara's going to look at me and go, you're out of your mind. And I'm going to look at him like, but we're going to do it, right?
Right.
That there's a lot of the salesmanship that happens in those moments. And those are big cues, right?
It's key. Yes. It's a key moment to have that discussion.
Yeah. It's so funny because almost every time somebody says, I get ghosted after the consultation, and I'll be like, well, you presented in person, either in person or on Zoom, right? Oh no, I sent an email. I'm like, well, okay. Yeah. I mean, let's start there,
Yes.
Because what happens is, if you present a budget of 90 to 120 and they really are like, oh my goodness, we love you. Your ideas are great, but we were thinking 50 to 70, right? When you are in person, they have to say that to you. Yeah. And they will. Whereas if you send an email and there's the budget itemized at $120,000 or whatever, they both just look at each other and go, holy crow, she's out of her mind. Right. Don't call her back, right? Whereas if they have to say to you, we were thinking 50 to 70, now you can say, well, in our consultation, it really felt like it was important that we create the new foundation. Let's do wall covering. Let's do drapes. Let's do carpeting. And we can think about furnishings being phase 2 or never, right?
It gives me an opportunity to help them move forward with something that they can move forward with. And then if we need to, backseat phase 2 something, I can suggest that. And that way we still move forward with part of the project, we still get that client. And
then it becomes, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk and then he's going to want a napkin.
Yes.
Like, okay, I got carpet and drapes. And
Once you get in there and you start doing it, most of the time they're like, okay, so we talked, we're going to go ahead and start that phase 2 now instead of later. And so then you just bring up the rest of that scope and budget that you had phase 2 and then get it going.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I'm making a joke, they give a mouse a cookie. But the thing about it is what's so absolutely genius and so just so smart about this idea, the way you do this is, if the 50 is the cap, you honor it. You honor it. You're not doing it saying, well, I'll event, because you're not like, well, I'll take every single thing, because I think this is the key, Melanie, right? I think you're going to agree with me. The thing is, if you tell somebody it's 90 and they say it's 50, you're not like, okay, I'm going to do everything you said. I'm just going to do it crappy for 50. You're literally
No.
saying we're eliminating these things. Let's
Yes.
work with your priorities,
Yes.
right?
And
And
that's exactly what I
yeah,
asked. Tell me what your priorities are and let's see what we can get done.
yeah.
What's going to make the most impact for what you want to have done?
Right. It could have been that
Mhm.
they love their wall covering and their carpet, but they really hate the furniture. That might be the
Absolutely.
most impact for them, right?
Yeah.
Or the reverse.
Yeah.
And if they're not sure, it's so easy to say, let's do the foundation, let's do the carpet and the
Hmm.
walls and the drapes, and then we
We'll
can
come
take a
back later.
breather. Yes. It's not a no going back thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. I mean, it definitely aligns with the way we teach the 7-step program. And Jessica Harling has adapted our window treatment 7-step program for designers. And this is exactly the method. It's like, let's get a realistic number based
Mhm.
on what they've wanted, and understand that if that number isn't the right number, we take things away. We just don't do things at a lesser quality to get
Right.
it done.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's still, at the end of the day, it's what we say all the time on the show: interior design, custom window treatments, it's luxury, period. Whether it's
Yeah.
entry level luxury or it's I'm flying on a jet plane to Paris to pick my furniture luxury,
It
it's
is.
luxury,
It
right?
is.
And,
It's a service we're providing, it's optional.
mhm,
This
mhm.
isn't something people have to have. It's a luxury optional service.
Yeah. And I
You know.
think the thing about it is to understand that when someone is coming to you for a luxury service, whether they say it out loud or not, they're not coming to get lower quality. They're coming to get something that they feel like they couldn't do on their own, right?
Yes,
It's something
exactly.
that's going to be better. The selection is going to be better. The quality is going to be better, because otherwise they would just go do it on their own,
Yes.
right? So if we just take the whole thing and make everything less quality to fit in the budget, ultimately they're not going to be happy. They're going to look around and go, I could have paddled this all together myself at Bob's Big Boy
Mm,
store,
yeah.
right? It has to still be the integrity and the authenticity of where we start, where your conversation started on. You've done something for them that is elevated and honors where they are with investment level, but gives them the quality at each investment level, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You know what it's like? Again, here I am with my dang analogies. But it's like if you go into a fine dining restaurant, like how many times have I said the fine dining analogy in 9 years? 19,000 times. But it's like when you go in and you're like, this is a special occasion. We're having a celebration dinner, and you know what? Gosh, I thought it was going to be 100 a person, but it turns out it's like 150 a person. Geez, there's 6 of us here. That's not really
Right.
what I was thinking, right? The waiter isn't like, oh, well, let me just go get McDonald's for all of you so you can eat at 150. You know what I mean? At 100, like you are
Right.
mentally going, okay, no appetizers and no desserts.
Right.
Everybody get a dinner and a glass of wine and stop right there, right? Like you're
Right.
still getting that same experience, you're getting the same quality food, but you as a consumer are saying, we are going to limit it to these things. It's no different. Am I limiting it to carpet and drapes, or am I limiting it to appetizer, salad,
Yes.
dessert, and after dinner drinks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The
Yes.
thing I got is still the elevated thing. And I might have gotten less of those, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to get junk now, right?
Yes. You can go back later and have the dessert.
That's right, right? We can make another visit, and the next time, just bring out the wallet
Just
for the appetizers and
right.
dessert. I always think of that sort of analogy, because I remember Vin and I in the beginning years. You got 4 blasted kids in the house. You have 4 kids, right?
Yes.
You're looking at saving for colleges. You're running around like banshees trying to like paddle together and get your mortgage payment together. And
Yes.
like every once in a while, we would just be like, I remember my mom would come to our house when the kids were little. The girls were little. The guys were in high school already. But and we didn't have money to go on vacation. And so a lot of times, I mean, I would tell you there were many years where once or twice a year we would go for one night in the hotel in the town next door. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
she would get there at 11 or 12 in the morning. We would go somewhere, we would have lunch together. We would just, have dinner somewhere, go to a movie, and go back to the hotel and not wake up with the darn kids. You know what I mean? And we were back at the house at noon. You know what I mean? But in those beginning years when we were paying for the hotel too, it was kind of like, well, we had the popcorn at the movie. So we can go into the fancy restaurant and let's just like get an appetizer and a drink and it'll feel special. Right? Like,
That's
because we
right.
were on a budget, right? But it was the experience that we wanted. We could have spent the same $30 at Fridays, but instead we went to a nicer place and just got less stuff.
Absolutely. Yes.
you know so and I just think that's an important thing for all designers to remember, that whether the consumer is saying it or not, they're coming for that experience. They're coming for that. It's the things that I can't get on my own, and the quality is different. And the consumer doesn't always know it, but I think it's our responsibility to keep it in mind.
Mhm. I think so too, and I know something for my clients is they really appreciate me bringing the designs to them, and I'll add, of course we have a conversation about if they like it and everything, but they don't want me to give them multiple options.
Right.
They don't want to choose. And I always tell them, whatever I show you, you don't ever have to worry about it if it goes. If I'm
Mm,
showing you two lamps, it's because I want you to tell me if one of these lamps just, you love one more than the other. They both go.
yeah.
I just want to know if you have a preference on one of these. And sometimes they're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I love this one lamp." But I keep the options. A lot of times I'll just show them one. I just show
Yes.
them one design, and because I listen to them and we have sourced things and we know their budget, putting all of those pieces together, we show them one design, and maybe they want to tweak something on it, and we'll show them a follow-up from that. But that's that kind of caretaking that they want. They want to feel like they're in good hands. And again, with the trust, they want to trust what it is that I'm showing them and that I'll take good care of them.
Mm-hmm. And just for a moment, to bring it back to the practical point with DTS,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because there are hundreds of
Yes.
sources there for you, it's, I just imagine that's why I'm like so a proponent of them now, because
Yes.
I just imagine being able to go to one spot and seeing, instead of in and out of, I don't know the different brands. I'm going to say brands I don't know, Vanguard and Bernhardt. Like, I know,
There's
I
a
know enough to
lot.
be dangerous, right? But like in and out of every one, looking for, one or two lamps that are in the price point. Whereas there, you're just like you said a moment ago, you're just filtering. You're filtering lamps, you're filtering by
Yes.
price point, maybe by style, and then bang, now you've got it across multiple brands, right?
Yes, and it is a good representation of a variety of
Mm,
options. And
yeah.
so I think that's another thing that I love so much about using their site is because I know that for this client who leans a little more this way, I can find something. For this client that leans a little more this way, I can find something. And
It's
so
not one style
it's
on the
not,
site.
yes, it's a whole mix of different ones at different price points. And so to have all of those options in one place, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a time saver. And I know that I'm still getting something of quality at a good price that's competitive. And believe me, we have checked pricing across the board from them or direct or a variety of places. And they're always competitive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know
Yeah.
that's a criteria that's
Yeah.
important too. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. Well, Melanie, I mean, I have just enjoyed this conversation so much.
Me
It's so
too.
clear, the way you have built an intentional business, just as you said in your, intake form to me. And I'm just so happy for you that it really does seem to be such on lockdown, right? Between my Doma Studio and DTS and the other processes that you've put into the place here. Um, I can picture your day, your week, your month. Look, there's always heart attacks, and you got to believe it. I can't, you can't make this stuff, that things that happen, but
Right.
you've mitigated that, so much of that, by being intentional in your point of view, how you want to do it, and then building the processes to support it. And that is a double high five for me. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank you for
much.
being here today.
Thank you for having me on. It has been so much fun.
Let's talk about Melanie's process for getting to that authentic level in her design. I have no doubt that you believe you are doing this as well, right? Creating spaces that are unique and reflect what your client wants and needs. But I got to say, I love Melanie's specific process, that questioning process that helps naturally bring this information out. Like, if you asked me what my style is, I won't have a good answer for you. I definitely won't. But I can, and I could, and I would very happily talk your ear off about how I want to use a space, about the things that drive me crazy about the space, about the way I want to feel in the space. So if you can find a way to get those answers out of me, and then you can go along your merry way and create a design that captures all of that in a way that I ends up with what I couldn't even verbalize I needed, that's pretty powerful. Because whether it's me or your client can't articulate what they want, and you can still deliver a space that deeply resonates, that's memorable. That's what gets referrals without having to ask, right? Now, if you don't have a process like this that leads to this kind of insight like Melanie does, that's your homework for today, my friend. You need to focus on this. Your questions don't have to be exactly her questions, and your process doesn't have to be exactly like hers. But you do need to have a process for this, because it will make a difference in your business and the profitability of your business and the success of the outcomes, right? Let's also talk about Melanie's budget conversation. Love this. She doesn't ask, what's your budget? Because guess what? She's smart enough and seasoned enough to know that she's going to hear, I don't know. Okay. But again, she's talking her clients through it, getting all the insight she needs to create a ballpark number right there on the spot. And this does many valuable things. First of all, it helps her disqualify clients who really actually innocently have no idea how much money design is going to cost them. And the ones that maybe had an idea but aren't ready to pay it, right? So love, love, love that. You don't need to be 5 steps down the process to find out that they're blown away. Right then and there is fine, okay? The second thing that this does, it shows expertise. It shows that your client, that you know exactly what you're doing. What do I tell you all the time? You got to be the leader in the room. You got to be the one leading the conversation, okay? And the third thing it does is it's a gift for your client. It's a gift of clarity for your client. In that moment, they too also are not going to take 5 more steps, getting more and more excited about something that they ultimately find out that they're not interested in investing in, that it's beyond the level that makes sense to them. Okay? So if you can do this, I can promise you, you'll be like Melanie, and you will get way less pushback. You will get way less arguments on prices, and you will get way less clients who try to minimize what you do and devalue what you do, right? Now, if you don't know how to do the ballpark estimate, we've had several guests on the show talking through it and giving insight to why it's so important and how to do it. Terry Taylor, episode 548. Kimber Liddy, episode 592. Vita dives into it specifically for window treatment pros in episode 761. And Jessica Harling and I discussed our signature Exciting Windows Make a Friend 7-step sales process that she teaches for us at Luann University in episode 760. At Luann University, we teach you exactly how to do this, whether you're a window treatment pro or an interior design professional. So please, tap into those resources. The other thing that I loved about this conversation with Melanie is I loved having the opportunity to hear from a working interior designer her insight on using and working with Design Trade Service, right? Straight from user perspective. She explained how much time and effort a program like DTS saves her and how it can be used in a way, in whatever way that works for you, the nuances of the ways that she described it, right? I love, love, love this because I believe in this as a powerful tool for your business. And if you like the sound of this, but maybe you're not sure what she's talking about in detail, then you've got to go to the show notes and click on the episode with Greg Wires and Jennifer Points of Design Trade Service. We will put that episode in the show notes. And, you'll learn how DTS is unique and can help you streamline and simplify so much of the time that you spend tracking things down and shopping multiple websites for multiple products from multiple vendors. Yikes. Like, who needs that process, right? And then finally, I love Melanie's install day process, that personal walkthrough, the little surprises the curator reveal. This is luxury, not just the design itself, but the care, the thoughtfulness, the experience that Melanie is creating for her client. Because yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. The luxury client wants beautiful things, but at the top of the list is the experience of getting the beautiful things. That is what it's all about. That's what can set you apart. All right? Melanie, thank you so much for such a great conversation. You are 100% a hashtag smart lady, and I so appreciate you coming here today. Be sure, all of you, to please check out designtradeservice.com/Luann to see how your life can start getting easier today. Today, it's free. Go look, go sign it up, start using it. All right? Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate that you show up. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.